GM. So we're about 25 minutes away from the New York session. The ETH curse has continued. The signal I mentioned to look for in yesterday's video, where you have Bitcoin making a lower high and Ethereum at the same time making a higher high and outperforming, typically leads to Bitcoin pulling back or reversing. So mentioned this in yesterday's video over here, where I said over the last few years, ETH outperformance has typically led to Bitcoin pulling back or reversing after topping out. Because you don't want to see ETH continue to outperform, because that typically happens at the end of a move. So I mentioned a few paths for Bitcoin, either red or purple, and red could lead on to the green if we were shorter term bullish, but both scenarios I was saying we're more likely to go down in the short term. And the question is whether we can hold yesterday's candle, which was Monday's candle at the time, or if we lose that. So very important day coming up. Let's quickly check out the ETF flows. So we actually saw an outflow day come in on the 6th of January. That's interesting, after 1 billion of inflows. So on net, still inflows in 2026, but noticeable that there was a day of outflows. Of course, BlackRock, they report a day late. A lot of people don't know that. So their flows for yesterday will actually only arrive today. So a little bit of information there. But looking back at the markets, this 50-day EMA is going to be very important for Bitcoin. So let's get a better view of Bitcoin here on the daily chart. So zooming out a little bit. 12 and 21 band. So we got the 12 above the 21, which is in bullish order. We got the 50-day EMA in purple, which we're above. But as mentioned yesterday, you don't want to see price fully retrace Monday's candle. And well, that's what we did on Tuesday, which was your show of weakness, because that means all of the buyers on Monday, they've not been able to support that candle, and they've actually had the whole candle retraced. So that should be no surprise that we're topping out here. We did reach the equal highs, and really for Bitcoin, its last saving grace would be this 50-day EMA. If we can remain above that, then sure, potentially we could be just consolidating here, and this could all set up for higher. But more likely than not, if we lose that 50-day EMA, all the signs were there for a pullback. We have had an up-only rally since the 2026 Open. It's literally just been up. So pullback is pretty much warranted. And we were seeing the signs that I mentioned at the end of yesterday's video, where you actually had this divergence on the CVD. So we got in red, perpetual futures. They were long in very hard at the market, whereas spot was selling very hard at the market. And we know spot typically dictates the flows, and that was a bearish divergence where you see futures market getting over leverage leads to this further pullback. So all the signs were there for this. Question is, does this set up a trade for us that we can then look at? Well, let's get those paths back on that I mentioned the other day. So is this the path, or it should be over here? Where were these paths from that video? Let's have a look. Ah, it's on this chart, that's why. So if we zoom in on Bitcoin here and go like this. So that was from the video I just showed you, where we have these three scenarios. We haven't got the green path, so there's not been that immediate rally off of the pullback that we were expecting. Question is whether we actually now break down below that 50-day EMA. If so, I'll be looking for any consolidation then to actually be a bearish consolidation and lead to potential short setups that we can take, of course, only if our system rules permit, to trade back down towards that yearly open, that 2026 open. So that's one scenario I'm looking at. Now, of course, if we are going to be bullish, we are going to generally hold above that 50-day EMA, then we can see something like the red path, which I'll actually put in green now. Seems like a better color. If we can consolidate, then sure, that's markup. Consolidation should lead to another markup. And I'll just be waiting for price to now bounce, especially going into this New York session here. It's really an important day for Bitcoin to see whether, these start of year rallies are going to be stalling and rejecting, or whether they actually do have more gas to go in them. So break below that 50-day EMA, watch for a bearish consolidation below resistance. That then sets up bearish continuation lower, which we can trade. But if we consolidate and stay up here, I'll be looking for potential long setups then, because then you're seeing a show of strength. And that's also very possible. But as it stands right now, 2026 Open is something I'm looking at as a target if we do get that further flush. And what we've got here is Bitcoin set a high. We then broke the market structure over here, so the low that led to the recent high. We set a bounce, so low high bounce over here, and now if we do start making new lows, that is a confirmed downtrend on that time frame. Because again, if I get the paths out, what do we have? Well, we have, after this market structure break, so you have market structure break here, lower high bounce, and now if you make a lower low below the market structure break candle, that dictates a downtrend. So I'll be watching 91.2k. If we close below there, that confirms that likely going to see bearish continuation and probably the end of the momentum of this start of year rally. And then you're just looking at the 2026 Open to see, does that hold or do we break through it? Of course, bullish scenario, as I said, would be holding in this consolidation as shown per the green path, so not breaking down and making a new low. Now zooming out, what can this all mean? Well, looking at the chart, we are just still consolidating inside this weekly candle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weekly candles. Almost going to be 7 weekly candles in a row trading inside. So the volatility is compressing. We are seeing that price is consolidating. Which way is it going to break from this box? Well, many ways it can play out that I touched on in detail yesterday. Make sure to check out that video. So I won't dive into it too much today, but you can see price have a bullish short squeeze and go way higher. You can see price actually reject here as it's hit those liquidity levels and go lower. Both scenarios, I'd still be expecting a retest of these lows if the bottom is in. Now, of course, that is assuming the bottom's in. Not necessarily. Maybe we do mark down. But the point of this is, if we go higher or if we stay here, at some point in terms of high time frame trading now, so not looking at short term, I'll be expecting some sort of retest of these lows to confirm a bottom, just like the market always does in any of these scenarios. And that can be a wick, that can be a high low. Touched on it yesterday. You see every time when the market bottoms, you get these failures to go lower. Longs get liquidated, and liquidated it generates sell liquidity, and sell liquidity allows big whales to fill their buy orders every single time. And you have Japanese yen carry trade fears, you have tariff fears over there. It's all playing out, exactly as every chart plays out, where price first, news comes in second. You have FTX crash here, and you liquidate all the longs, can't go lower, smart money, buy up all of that, sell liquidity, and you end up going higher. So that's how all bottoms form on Bitcoin on any chart. It's not always a liquidity sweep. Sometimes it is a high low, but you do generally get that retest. You don't often see V reversals. They are the rarest. So patience is always the play as a high time frame trader. So that's what I'm going to adopt. We are still trading inside these insides weeks, and that's really the bias for Bitcoin. And looking at the wider market, so what are we seeing? Well, let's actually zoom out first. So on the daily, you've got silver, gold, stocks, all still in their high time frame uptrends in terms of looking at the 50, 100, and 200 EMA bands. So you can see gold, stocks, and silver all have the 50 above the 100, above the 200, which is bullish order, whereas Bitcoin's the opposite. You've actually got the 50 at the bottom, 100 in the middle, and 200 at the top. So it's in bearish order. And last time this happened, you have to go all the way back to 2022 over here, where these bands flipped in bearish order on the daily, where we actually locally bottomed out, had a gradual grind higher, but that consolidation ended up leading to a markdown and ended up leading to that monthly market structure break, which you see on screen here. Now, monthly market structure, that is very much intact. So when you zoom out to the monthly, technically, as long as we don't break this level, high time frame, Bitcoin is still in that bullish structure. So going to be a very key level to watch if we do get any high time frame retests and we do start, failing these yearly open rallies on Bitcoin. But lots to do until then, as you guys know. So this is high time frame stuff. Of course, looking at Bitcoin, it's not in the best place in terms of all other assets because it is in that bearish trend, whereas other assets are outperforming relatively. But markets go in cycles, guys. And if we zoom out to the 12-month chart, something I like to do, you can see that Bitcoin absolutely ripped all of these assets in 2023 and 2024. So Bitcoin in 2023, it actually did massive returns. So usually the percentage comes up at the top there, but for some reason it's not. But you went from essentially 16K to 43K, which is over a 2x. So that's around almost 3x, so 2.5x there. Whereas gold in 2023 literally went from 1.8 to 2K. So 10% increase. Silver had a flat year. Stocks went from 3.9 to 4.8K. So still nowhere near a 2.5x. And it's a similar story in 2024. Bitcoin absolutely ripped all these assets. So no surprise to just see some relative underperformance coming into 2025 and beginning of 2026 here. That's just how markets go. And eventually it will revert back to Bitcoin outperforming. So that's why when Bitcoin is relatively underperforming, you don't want to take your eye off the ball, because this is when the best opportunity arrives. Your cheapest Bitcoin, if you like, arrives for when we eventually then go into that relative outperformance on BTC. You can't just check out of the markets because crypto is relatively weak. In fact, that's when you need to be turning up every day so that you don't miss the opportunity, because this is where the generational opportunities get made, so that you can get in before the outperformance and not be the guy that FOMOs in 2024, 2025 after the outperformance, right? So that's a little mini lesson there essentially on outperformance. But seeing gold reclaim its previous all-time high, Bitcoin struggling to get above its 2025 open, silver is kind of double topping around that 2025 high, and stocks are almost going for an all-time high breakout. So on lower time frames, you can see silver has met resistance at that previous all-time high that we set late December, and it is now rejecting. It is now breaking that H150 EMA here, so going to be interesting to see if silver can really build up. Bulls really need to get it back into this zone if it's going to have a breakout. Otherwise, downtrend continuation is likely on silver to head back to some of this previous area of support over here. When it comes to stocks, they're consolidating. Any consolidation above the previous all-time high and below the all-time high should set up for a bullish breakout. And by the same nature, if you lose the previous all-time high, likely a failed breakout and downtrend to come. Break the all-time high, likely uptrend to come. And when it comes to gold, gold's in an interesting scenario around its previous all-time high as well, where it just needs to consolidate on the high time frame anywhere between the all-time high and previous all-time high to set up a base for higher. But again, lose that previous all-time high, then you're looking at a potential high time frame top when it comes to gold. So that's really the wider crypto market. If we look at some altcoins, obviously ETH is interesting in terms of showing us, if it's outperforming Bitcoin, that's typically a sign that Bitcoin's likely to top out. So that's as much as I'm using ETH right now. Otherwise, not much interest, because Bitcoin should have the ETF flows, should have the bid on the long side if there is going to be any good long plays. Potentially sets up for shorts, but I'm just more interested in trading Bitcoin, since built systems around Bitcoin that have loads and loads of data, a lot more than I do have on ETH. So we'll be trading long and short on Bitcoin this week for sure. Over any other asset, we did have Pepe making some interesting moves. So I have to do this when you search up Pepe on the chart. We take a look at it. It's holding up still relatively stronger than all of these markets. So this is actually quite interesting. Bit of outperformance still on meme coins, even to the downside. So setting up this consolidation here, almost like a bull flag if you like. And again, as long as Pepe holds this general order block zone, so above 0.5743, I think this can set up for continuation higher. Any consolidation should be a bid. And eventually, if we can see a nice base here, that can actually set up a nice move to come in the coming weeks. But alternatively, lose that order block, back test it as resistance, then I'd expect any bounces to actually lead to this kind of 2026 rally failing on Pepe. So going to be interesting to watch this market, interesting to see how those meme coins react if Bitcoin does actually start heading lower and kind of confirming a lower low here and retracing some of this 2026 rally. Really watching that 2026 open level as your pivot level for low time frame trading. That's going to be key because we rallied right off it. If we lose that level, can set up some moves to some of these equal lows, as I said, on the high time frame. But otherwise, that really is the full market update. If we quickly look at the leverage situation on Bitcoin, so a quick update. So yeah, spot CVD did start selling really hard. That is leading to this down move pre-New York session now. Got about 10 minutes to go till that opens, so expect some volatility off the open. But we are setting up bearishly here with futures longs. They really propped up the market. We can see since it topped out, futures longs were up, whereas spot, they were actually selling at the market. So CVD shows market orders only. And that's led to markets respecting the spot selling and actually going lower. So a lot of that was the ETF outflows that we saw. So interesting to see that we've got open interest actually building up here. So this is longs and shorts opening, that means. So this literally tells you what the futures positions are doing in the market. So up 3% in terms of positioning, so longs and shorts opening. And at the same time, price is actually down 1.8%. So potentially some shorts coming in here pre-New York session. Wouldn't surprise me at all if on the New York Open we actually get a bit of a wick up to take out some of these stop losses of shorts, since there is a big build up over here. But as long as price is going down, shorts are right. So what bears need to do from here to put shorts, in the green, in the money, is to confirm that new low, because then price is respecting the shorts that are opening here. So whether that's after a bit of a flush on the New York Open, closing below this low and confirming that lower low over here puts the shorts in the correct position in the market. And by the same nature, if we start reclaiming some of this market structure over here, then shorts are actually potentially wrong. And you can see an unwind in this open interest as they get wrecked. So as we go lower, shorts are right, but if we can start to reclaim some of these key levels, then longs are right, and longs can potentially get in control in this open interest over here. So that's what I'd be watching to see if Bitcoin makes a lower low today after that show of weakness, since it took Monday's low over here. So that is Bitcoin. Nothing much to touch on. TSM did have that lovely breakout, of course. Seeing SPY try to also break out. So stocks are at new to all-time highs. And again, it just goes to show, I know we're focusing on crypto, but traders trade. Let's trade the easy markets. Let's look at all markets. That's how you got to be as a trader to give yourself maximum opportunity. Even if you're not trading stocks, even if you're not trading metals, it's good to start looking at them as you start to develop your specializations as a trader, because these are breaking out. These are going into potential uptrends. So it's a very different market to crypto, which, as you saw with the EMA band analysis, they're in downtrends. So as a trend trader, like if you're only trading crypto, you're kind of just sitting on your hands right now, especially if you're trading long side predominantly, which, a lot of the time on crypto, you generally do want to trade long side predominantly. It's not like Forex markets where you don't necessarily get big directional moves. Crypto generally goes up and to the right in terms of Bitcoin especially. So as trend traders, the trends are all in the stock market. The breakouts are all in the stock market, which I find interesting and really want to see if these breakouts hold. So these beginning of year breakouts hold in stocks. Bitcoin perhaps showing early signs of beginning of year kind of rallies potentially stalling out here. So really interesting time in the markets if we do see Bitcoin stall out. Do stocks follow? Do they fake their breakouts, or do stocks actually continue diverging and trend higher as crypto fills in its 2026 rally? So that's what I'm looking at in the market. Hope you guys enjoyed this update. I know a lot of you guys are new to the channel, so welcome everyone. Really appreciate all of the support, each and every one of you subscribers. Every single one of you helps. Super small channel. So if you enjoyed this video, drop a subscribe, turn that bell on so you don't miss a video from me, and drop a comment and a like so that I know you value this content too. You guys know basically what I do. So I post a video Monday to Friday, morning markets like today. This is where I do a daily analysis of the markets, looking at the daily levels. And then on Sundays, I do a weekly outlook. That's a high time frame analysis. And at the start of the month, I do a monthly outlook, so a super high time frame analysis. And that's kind of how I split my content up. We do also have altcoin analysis occasionally, especially when they're moving, where I take you guys' requests. But that is the channel. Also have Twitter if you guys want to follow me on there for extra updates. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys have a great day. GM.